Commander Park Jimin stood on the observation deck of Kepler Research Station, watching the golden clouds of Helios 7 swirl beneath them. The massive gas giant filled half the viewport, its surface dancing with storms that could swallow entire moons. After 3 years of studying this world, he still found it beautiful. The research station was home to 200 scientists from 12 different species. They had come here to study the strange life forms that lived in the gas giant's upper atmosphere. Floating jellyfish creatures the size of buildings drifted through the thick air below. Schools of crystal-winged flyers moved like living rainbows through the orange clouds. It was peaceful work, important work, the kind of research that helped all species understand the universe better. That peace ended when the alarms started screaming. Park Jimin ran to the command center. The main screen showed dozens of red dots appearing at the edge of their sensor range. Ships, big ones, moving fast toward their position. Communications Officer Kim Dae-ho looked up from his station, his face pale. "Commander, we have 37 vessels dropping out of hyperspace. They're not broadcasting any identification signals." "What kind of ships?" Park Jimin asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "Warships, sir. Heavy class. I'm detecting massive weapon signatures." The main screen shifted to show the approaching fleet. The ships were sleek and deadly-looking, painted in dark metal with crimson markings along their hulls. Park Jimin's blood went cold when he recognized the symbols. "Vakari Empire," he whispered. Everyone in the command center went quiet. The Vakari were known throughout the galaxy as brutal conquerors. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who tried to stop them. Worse, they never left survivors. A Vakari attack meant death for everyone involved. Security Chief Lee Yuna stepped forward. "Sir, we need to evacuate immediately." Park Jimin shook his head. "There's nowhere to run. Look at their formation. They've surrounded us completely." Was true. The Vakari fleet had positioned itself in a perfect sphere around Kepler Station. Every escape route was blocked. Even if they had military ships, which they didn't, there would be no way to break through that many warships. "Why are they attacking us?" asked Dr. Chung Sora from the Xenobiology Department. "We're just scientists. We don't have anything they could want." "The Vakari don't need a reason," Lee Yuna said grimly. "They attack because they can." The lead Vakari ship moved closer to the station. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their small research facility. Weapon ports along. Its hull began to glow with energy. "Incoming transmission," Kim Dae-ho announced. The main screen flickered and showed the face of a Vakari commander. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect, with black eyes and razor-sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Attention, inhabitants of the research station. You are now prisoners of the Vakari Empire. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in immediate execution." The transmission ended. Park Jimin felt his stomach drop. He had hoped they might demand surrender, give them a chance to negotiate. But the Vakari didn't negotiate. "All hands, this is the commander," he announced over the station's intercom system. "We are under attack by hostile forces. All personnel are to report to secure areas immediately. This is not a drill." The next few minutes were chaos. Scientists ran through the corridors carrying research data and personal belongings. Some were crying. Others moved in shocked silence. The youngest researchers, barely out of university, looked terrified. Park Jimin tried to stay calm for their sake, but his hands were shaking. He had never been in combat. None of them had. This was supposed to be a peaceful research mission. The first Vakari boarding pods slammed into the station's hull like meteors. The impact shook the entire structure. Emergency lights began flashing, as hull breaches triggered automatic seal procedures. "They're coming through sections 7 and 12, Lee Yuna reported from her security console. "My teams are moving to intercept, but sir, we only have basic security equipment, stun weapons, and light armor. The Vakari have military-grade gear." More impacts shook the station. Park Jimin could hear the distinctive sound of cutting tools working through the hull. The Vakari were not subtle. They simply burned their way inside wherever they wanted. The first reports from the security teams were not good. The Vakari soldiers wore heavy combat armor and carried weapons that could punch through the station's walls. Lee Yuna's people were brave, but they were scientists and technicians, not soldiers. Section 7 has fallen, came a voice over the comm system. They're moving toward the main research labs. Section 12 is under heavy assault. We can't hold them much longer. Park Jimin made a decision that probably saved many lives. All security teams, fall back to the secure labs. Don't try to hold the outer sections, get our people to safety. Kim Dae-ho was still at his communication station trying different frequencies. Commander, I'm sending out distress signals on all emergency channels. Someone has to be listening. Keep trying, Park Jimin ordered, though he didn't have much hope. They were in a remote sector of space. The nearest galactic cooperation patrol was probably days away, if there was one at all. The sounds of battle echoed through the station, weapon fire, shouting, the heavy footsteps of Vakari soldiers in combat armor. Slowly but steadily, the invaders were taking control. Dr. Hong Suman, the chief medical officer, had set up an emergency treatment center in one of the secure labs. She was treating injuries from the initial impacts and the fighting. Burns, cuts, and broken bones from people who had been thrown around when the boarding pods hit. How many casualties? Park Jimin asked when he found her. 12 injured so far. No deaths yet, but that's going to change fast if we can't stop them. As if summoned by her words, the lights in their section went out. Emergency power kicked. In a few seconds later, bathing everything in red light, the Vakari were systematically shutting down the station systems. Sir, Kim Dae-ho called out from his portable comm unit. I'm getting a response to our distress signal. Everyone in the lab went quiet. Park Jimin rushed to the communications officer's side. What kind of response? It's strange, sir. Human voice, speaking perfect galactic standard. Just said, message. Received. En route. Then the transmission ended. Human? Dr. Chung Sora looked confused. I've never heard of any human ships in this sector. I've never heard of human ships anywhere, Lee Yuna added. They're not part of the galactic cooperation, are they? Park Jimin tried to remember what he knew about humans. It wasn't much. They were supposedly from a world called Earth, somewhere in the Outer Rim territories. He had heard they were a relatively new spacefaring species, but that was about it. Another explosion shook the station. The Vakari were getting closer to their position. How long until help arrives? Dr. Hong Sumin asked. Kim Dae-ho checked his instruments. The transmission came from the edge of the system. If they're using standard drives, maybe 3 days. 3 days. Park Jimin looked around the lab at the frightened faces of his people. Scientists who had never hurt anyone in their lives. Researchers who just wanted to study the universe and make it a better place. 3 days might as well be 3 years. The sound of cutting tools started up just outside their section. The Vakari had found them. Everyone stay calm, Park Jimin said, though he didn't feel calm at all. Help is coming. We just have to survive until then. He hoped whoever had answered their call would arrive in time, because if they didn't, everyone on Kepler Research Station was going to die. Outside, their sealed door, the Vakari soldiers continued their work. The cutting tools grew louder. The countdown had begun. 3 days had passed since the Vakari attack began. Commander Park Jimin sat in the corner of what used to be the main research lab, now turned into a makeshift prison cell. Half of his people were gone. Some had been killed during the initial assault. Others had been taken away by Vakari soldiers for reasons he didn't want to think about. The survivors huddled together in groups. Dr. Hong Suman moved between them quietly, treating injuries with whatever medical supplies she could find. Security Chief Lee Yuna sat near the door, her arm in a crude sling from a plasma burn she had received while trying to protect the younger researchers. Kim Dae-ho still had his portable communication device, though he kept it hidden from the guards. The Vakari had destroyed most of the station's equipment, but they had missed his small unit. He listened to it through a tiny earpiece, hoping for news of rescue. Anything? Park Jimin whispered, when Kim Dae-ho caught his eye. Still nothing from the Galactic Cooperation Fleet, but sir, Kim Dae-ho paused and looked around to make sure no guards were listening. I'm picking up some strange readings on the long-range sensors, the ones the Vakari haven't found yet. What kind of readings? Hyperspace signatures, coming from the outer system, multiple contacts. Park Jimin felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe the mysterious humans who had answered their distress call were actually coming. Maybe they would survive this nightmare after all. The hope didn't last long. One of the Vakari guards entered the lab and pointed at Dr. Chung Sora. You, come with me. Dr. Chung Sora was a young xenobiology researcher who had only been on the station for 6 months. She was barely older than a student. Her face went white with terror. Please. Park Jimin stood up. She's just a scientist. She doesn't know anything important. The Vakari guard turned his weapon toward Park Jimin. The alien's black eyes showed no emotion at all. Sit down or join her. Park Jimin sat down. He hated himself for it, but there was nothing he could do. If he fought, they would just kill him and take Dr. Chung Sora anyway. As the guard dragged the terrified researcher away, Kim Dae-ho grabbed Park Jimin's arm. His eyes were wide with excitement. Sir, the contacts just dropped out of hyperspace. 12 ships. They're moving toward the station. Are they ours? Lee Yuna asked, hope creeping into her voice. I don't think so. These ships, they're not like anything in the Council database. The design is completely different. Through the walls of their prison, they could hear increased activity from the Vakari soldiers, shouted orders in their harsh language, the sound of weapons being charged and equipment being moved. Then the station's intercom system crackled to life. The voice that came through was human, speaking perfect galactic standard, but with an accent none of them had heard before. Vakari, vessels. This is Admiral Choi Minho of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are in violation of galactic maritime law by attacking a civilian research facility. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. The prisoners looked at each other in amazement. The humans had actually come. 12 ships against 37 didn't sound like good odds, but at least they weren't alone anymore. The response from the Vakari commander came quickly. His voice was full of anger and contempt. Unknown vessels. This is General Thekvar of the Vakari 4th Fleet. You will leave this system immediately or be destroyed. We are claiming this station and all its contents by right of conquest. Admiral, came another human voice over the comm. Sensors show the Vakari fleet is moving to attack formation. 37 vessels, all armed with plasma cannons and particle beam weapons. Understood, Captain Kim Minsu. All ships prepare for combat. Remember the rules of engagement. These are the same forces that attacked Harmony Colony. Park Jimin didn't know what Harmony Colony was, but the way Admiral Choi said it made his blood run cold. There was something in the human's voice. Not anger exactly, but something much worse. Something patient and deadly. General Thekvar, Admiral Choi continued, his voice now completely emotionless. You have 30 seconds to release all prisoners and surrender unconditionally. This is your only warning. The Vakari general laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Humans, I have heard of your pathetic species. You have no military power, no territory worth claiming. You are nothing but scavengers hiding in the outer rim. 20 seconds. We are Vakari. We have conquered 17 worlds. Your 12 ships are insects before our might. 10 seconds. Park Jimin could hear Vakari soldiers running through the corridors outside their prison. Weapons were being charged. Emergency alarms were sounding throughout the station. Time's up, Admiral Choi said simply. The first indication that something was wrong came from Kim Dae-ho's sensor readings. His eyes went wide as he stared at his device. What is it? Park Jimin whispered. The Vakari fleet. 6 ships, they're gone. What do you mean gone? I mean they're not there anymore. The sensors show expanding debris clouds where they used to be. Through the station's hull, they could hear the vibrations of weapon fire. But it wasn't the familiar sound of Vakari plasma cannons. This was something different, something that made the entire station shake with each shot. The intercom crackled again. This time it was a different human voice. Admiral, this is Captain Lee Sang-hoon on the Seoul. Enemy formation is breaking apart. They're trying to regroup, but their command ship is already taking heavy damage. Continue the attack pattern, Admiral Choi replied calmly. No survivors among the military vessels. Any ship that tries to surrender will be boarded and searched for prisoners. Kim Dae-ho was frantically checking his readings. Sir, I'm showing massive explosions throughout the Vakari fleet. They're losing ships faster than I can count. How is that possible? Lee Yuna asked. 12 ships against 37? I don't know. But whatever weapons the humans are using, they're cutting through Vakari shields like they're not even there. The sounds of battle continued for another 20 minutes. Explosions echoed through space. The station shook repeatedly as debris struck the hull. And through it all, the human voices on the comm remained calm and professional. Target destroyed. Moving to next contact. Busan here. Enemy cruiser is attempting to flee. Pursuing. Negative on that cruiser. It just took a direct hit from Daegu's main guns. No survivors. Finally, the sounds of battle faded away. The intercom was quiet for several long minutes. Then Admiral Choi's voice returned. Kepler Research Station, this is Admiral Choi. The immediate threat has been eliminated. We're moving to dock with your facility. Prepare to receive medical assistance and evacuation support. The prisoners sat in stunned silence. It was over. Somehow, impossibly, it was over. How many Vakari ships are left? Park Jimin asked Kim Dae-ho. Kim Dae-ho checked his sensors again. Then he checked them a second time as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. None, sir. There are no Vakari ships left. Just debris fields and a few escape pods. None, Lee Yuna repeated. What about the ones that tried to run? All destroyed. The humans. They didn't let a single ship escape. The door to their prison suddenly exploded inward, but instead of Vakari soldiers, human troops in dark combat armor entered the room. Their weapons were lowered, and they moved. With the quick efficiency of professional soldiers, the lead soldier removed his helmet, revealing a young human face with kind eyes. I'm Lieutenant Park Kyung-soo, Terran Marine Corps. Are there any injured among you who need immediate medical attention? Dr. Hong Soo-min stepped forward. I'm the Chief Medical Officer. We have several people with serious injuries. Our medics are setting up a treatment station in the main corridor. We'll have your people taken care of immediately. The lieutenant looked around at the group of survivors. How many Vakari are still on the station? I don't know, Park Jimin admitted. Maybe 50 or 60 soldiers. They have prisoners in other sections. Understood. My teams are sweeping the station now. Any Vakari who surrender will be taken prisoner. Any who resist. The lieutenant's expression hardened. Well, they won't be resisting for very long. As if summoned by his words, the sound of weapon fire echoed through the station, but it was brief. Very brief. Sir, one of the human soldiers spoke into his comm device. Section 12 is secure. No Vakari resistance encountered. Section 7 is also clear. Found 6 more prisoners. They're shaken up but alive. Park Jimin realized that the humans weren't just rescuing them. They were systematically clearing the entire station with military precision, and they were doing it fast. Lieutenant, he said carefully, how many of your people are on the station? Full boarding party, sir. 200 Marines. 200? Lee Yuna looked amazed. You brought 200 soldiers on 12 ships? Lieutenant Park Kyung-soo smiled, but there was something unsettling about it. Ma'am, each of our ships carries a full Marine company. We came prepared for a fight. The implications hit Park Jimin like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just sent a rescue mission. They had sent a military fleet capable of carrying over 2,000 soldiers, and they had used that fleet to completely destroy a Vakari force that outnumbered them 3-1. As the human Marines led them out of their prison toward medical care and safety, Park Jimin couldn't shake the feeling that they had been rescued by something far more dangerous than their attackers had ever been. The question was, what exactly had they gotten themselves involved with? Commander Park Jimin sat in the station's medical bay, watching Dr. Hong Soo-min work alongside human medics. The contrast was striking. The human medical team moved with the same military precision as their soldiers, but their care for the injured was gentle and professional. "Your people are very skilled," Dr. Hong Suman said to one of the human medics, a woman with sergeant stripes on her uniform. "Thank you, doctor. We've had a lot of practice recently," Sergeant Kim Yona replied while treating a plasma burn on Dr. Chung Sora's arm. "The Vakari have been busy in this sector." Park Jimin looked up from his cup of coffee. The humans had brought real coffee with them, something he hadn't tasted in months. "You've encountered the Vakari before?" "Oh yes, sir. This particular fleet attacked one of our colony worlds 2 months ago. We've been hunting them ever since." The casual way she said it made Park Jimin's stomach tighten. Hunting them. The Admiral doesn't like it when someone attacks human civilians, tends to take it personally. Security Chief Lee Yuna, her arm now properly treated and in a real medical cast, joined the conversation. "How many people lived on your colony world?" Harmony Colony had about 50,000 residents, mostly farmers and their families. Nice quiet place. Sergeant Kim Yona's voice remained calm, but her hands paused in their work. "The Vakari killed them all. Every last one." The medical bay went quiet. Everyone knew the Vakari were brutal, but hearing about it firsthand was different. "I'm sorry for your loss," Park Jimin said quietly. "Thank you, sir, but they didn't get away with it." The Admiral made sure of that. Communications Officer Kim Dae-ho was monitoring radio traffic from his portable unit. He suddenly looked up with a strange expression on his face. "Commander, I'm picking up transmissions from across the sector. Other species are talking about what happened here." "What are they saying?" "They're scared, sir. Really scared. Apparently word is spreading fast about a new military force that completely destroyed a Vakari fleet." Lee Yuna frowned. How did news travel so fast? Some of the Vakari escape pods were picked up by automated trading vessels. The survivors are telling everyone they meet about what happened. Park Jimin thought about this. In a way, it was good news. If other aggressive species heard about the battle, they might think twice before attacking peaceful research stations or colonies. The medical bay doors opened, and Admiral Choi Minho entered. He was a tall man with graying hair and the kind of bearing that commanded instant respect. When he walked into a room, conversations stopped and people paid attention. "Commander Park," the Admiral said, offering his hand. "I apologize for the delay in meeting you personally. I've been coordinating the cleanup operations." Park Jimin shook the Admiral's hand and was surprised by the firm but careful grip. "Admiral, I can't thank you enough for what you've done. You saved all our lives." "Just doing our job, Commander. How are your people holding up?" "Better than expected, thanks to your medical team. But Admiral, I have to ask, how did you destroy the entire Vakari fleet so quickly?" Admiral Choi's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "Superior technology and better training. The Vakari are used to fighting species that evolved on gentle worlds. They weren't prepared for opposition from a military that developed on a death world." "A death world?" Dr. Chung Sora asked from her medical bed. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world by galactic standards. Most council species would die within hours of exposure to our surface conditions." The Admiral said this matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. Kim Dae-ho looked up from his communication device with wide eyes. "Sir, I'm getting more reports from across the sector. 3 different pirate groups have just announced they're ceasing all operations in this region of space." "Smart of them," Admiral Choi commented. "Admiral," Lee Yuna said carefully, "exactly how many ships does humanity have?" "Enough." The Admiral's smile was not reassuring. "Every human world is defended by at least 1 fleet. Earth itself is protected by the home fleet." "How many ships is that?" Park Jimin asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "The home fleet consists of 3,000 vessels, each one designed specifically for warfare." The number hit the room like a physical blow. Park Jimin tried to process it. 3,000 warships protecting just 1 world. The entire Galactic Cooperation Council Navy had fewer than 500 ships total, and most of those were exploration vessels with minimal weapons. "That seems like a lot of ships for 1 species," Dr. Hong Sumin said weakly. "Earth has a Long history of warfare, Doctor. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. When we finally achieved space travel, we didn't forget those lessons. Kim Dae-ho was frantically checking his communications. Admiral, I'm getting reports that several aggressive species are withdrawing from planned military operations. The Zephyrian raiders just canceled 3 separate invasion fleets. Word travels fast in space, Admiral Choi observed. Good. Maybe some of these conflicts can be avoided entirely. Park Jimin was beginning to understand the bigger picture. The humans hadn't just rescued Kepler Station. They had made a statement to the entire galaxy. A very loud, very violent statement. Admiral, what exactly are humanity's intentions in this region of space? The Admiral considered the question carefully. Commander, for decades we've been watching the various species in Council space. We've seen peaceful research stations attacked. We've seen entire civilian populations enslaved or killed. We've seen aggressive species expand their territory through conquest and murder. He paused, looking out through the medical bay's viewport at the debris field that had once been a Vakari fleet. Humanity has decided that we will no longer stand by and watch such things happen. Any species that targets civilians, that attacks peaceful populations, will answer to us. You're appointing yourselves as galactic peacekeepers? Lee Yuna asked. We're appointing ourselves as the guardians of civilization itself, Admiral Choi corrected. There's a difference. Kim Dae-ho suddenly sat up straight. Sir, I'm getting a priority transmission from the Galactic Cooperation Council. They want to send a diplomatic team to meet with the human fleet. Of course they do, Admiral Choi said with amusement. They're probably terrified that we're planning to conquer them too. Are you? Park Jimin asked bluntly. The Admiral looked at him for a long moment. Commander, humanity has no interest in ruling other species. We have our own worlds, our own colonies, our own people to worry about. But we will not tolerate the kind of brutality that the Vakari represent. What happens to species that don't listen to your warnings? They learn very quickly that humanity keeps its promises. The Admiral's voice was completely calm, which somehow made the words even more terrifying. Sergeant Kim Yeona finished treating the last injured researcher and packed up her medical supplies. Admiral, all patients are stable and ready for transport if needed. Excellent work, Sergeant. Make sure they have everything they need. As the medical team left, Park Jimin found himself alone with Admiral Choi. The silence stretched between them for several minutes. Admiral, can I ask you something personal? Of course. How do you sleep at night, knowing that you have the power to destroy entire fleets, entire civilizations? Admiral Choi was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. Commander, every human ship carries the names of colony worlds that were destroyed by aggressive species. Harmony Colony, New Geneva, Port Liberty, dozens of others. We remember every civilian who died because no one was strong enough to protect them. He turned to look directly at Park Jimin. I sleep very well at night, Commander, because I know that as long as the Terran Defense Fleet exists, no other colony will suffer the same fate, and any species that tries to make more colonies like Harmony will learn exactly what kind of creatures evolution produces on a death world. The message was crystal clear. Humanity wasn't just offering protection, they were promising vengeance against anyone who harmed civilians. Park Jimin realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed in the past 3 days. The age of limited conflicts and cautious diplomacy was over. An apex predator species had entered galactic politics, and they had made their position very clear. The question now was whether the rest of the galaxy was wise enough to listen. Outside the viewport, human ships moved through the debris field, like hunting sharks, making sure no Vakari had survived to threaten anyone else. The new age had begun. The human ships had been docked with Kepler Station for 2 days now. Commander Park Jimin walked through the corridors and marveled at how different everything felt. The humans had repaired most of the damage from the Vakari attack with an efficiency that amazed him. What amazed him more was watching the human soldiers work. They moved through the station like they owned it, but not in an arrogant way. It was more like the way a predator moves through its territory, alert, confident and completely aware of everything around them. Dr. Hong Suman had spent hours working with the human medical team. She found Park Jimin in the observation lounge, staring out at the human fleet. "They're not like us," she said, quietly sitting down beside him. "What do you mean?" "I've been watching them treat our wounded. They're kind, gentle, professional. But they show no signs of stress from the battle. No trauma from what they did to the Vakari fleet." Park Jimin thought about this. Maybe they're just well-trained. No, it's more than that. I asked one of their medics about it. She said they train for psychological resilience from childhood. They call it Deathworld conditioning. Deathworld conditioning? The way she explained it, every human child grows up learning that their planet is trying to kill them. Extreme. Weather, dangerous animals, natural disasters, diseases. They develop a different relationship with violence and death than we do. Park Jimin watched a group of human Marines working on the station's exterior hull. They moved in perfect coordination like they had been working together for years. "Dr. Kim told me something interesting," Hong Suman continued. "She said that Earth has more ways to die than any other known planet, and humans evolved to survive all of them." The observation lounge doors opened and Security Chief Lee Yuna entered. Her arm was healing well thanks to human medical technology, but she looked troubled. "Commander, we need to talk. I've been monitoring communications between the human ships. What did you find?" "They're not just a rescue fleet, sir. They're a hunting party. And this isn't the first Vakari fleet they've destroyed." Lee Yuna activated a portable display unit. "I've been tracking their radio traffic. In the past 2 months, they've eliminated 4 separate Vakari fleets. Over 150 ships total." "That's impossible," Dr. Hong Suman said. "No, single fleet could do that much damage. They're not a single fleet. From what I can tell, humanity has multiple hunter groups operating throughout this entire region of space. They're systematically tracking down and destroying every Vakari military unit they can find." Park Jimin felt a chill. "They're conducting a war of extermination." "It gets worse," Lee Yuna continued. "They've also targeted 3 other species that were known for attacking civilian populations. The Kareth slavers, the Red Claw pirates, and the Mordian Empire. All have suffered massive fleet losses in recent months." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just defending themselves. They were actively hunting down every aggressive species in the sector. Communications Officer Kim Dae-ho entered the lounge looking excited. "Commander, you need to hear this. I've been monitoring Galactic Council communications. They're in complete panic." "Why?" "They just received intelligence, reports on human military capabilities. Apparently, the Terran Defense Fleet has over 50,000 ships spread across 12 different fleets." The room went silent. 50,000 warships was more than 10 times the combined military strength of all Council species. "There's more," Kim Dae-ho continued. "Each human world has its own defense fleet, separate from the main military, and they have something called reserve fleets that can be activated in case of major conflicts." "How many reserve fleets?" Park Jimin asked, though he dreaded the answer. "The intelligence report estimates over 200,000 reserve vessels." Dr. Hong Suman laughed, but it was a nervous sound. "That's not a military. That's an invasion, force capable of conquering the entire galaxy." "Which brings up an interesting question," Lee Yuna said. "If humanity has that kind of military power, why haven't they conquered everyone already?" The question hung in the air. It was Kim Dae-ho who provided a possible answer. "I intercepted a transmission from Admiral Choi to his fleet commanders yesterday. He said something about maintaining the balance. Apparently, humanity doesn't want to rule other species. They just want to make sure no one else rules through violence." "They're not conquerors," Park Jimin realized. "They're, what's the word, shepherds, protecting the flock from wolves." "Heavily armed shepherds," Lee Yuna corrected, "with enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Admiral Choi himself. The human commander entered the lounge with his usual calm confidence. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Not at all, Admiral," Park Jimin replied, though he wondered how much of their conversation the human had overheard. "I wanted to personally inform you that we'll be departing in 6 hours. Council ships are en route to provide ongoing security for your station. Thank you, Admiral, for everything. Admiral Choi nodded, then looked out at his fleet through the viewport. Commander, I suspect you have questions about humanity's military capabilities. Park Jimin decided to be direct. Admiral, our intelligence indicates that your species has enough ships to conquer the entire galaxy. Why haven't you? The Admiral smiled, and for once it seemed genuinely warm rather than predatory. Because conquest isn't the goal, Commander. We learned a long time ago that ruling unwilling populations is more trouble than it's worth. Then what is the goal? Peace through strength. We want a galaxy where research stations like yours can operate without fear, where colonies can grow and prosper without worrying about raids or invasions, where children can grow up without the threat of slavery or death. Dr. Hong Suman leaned forward. And if some species don't want that kind of peace? Then they get to choose between changing their ways or being removed from the equation entirely. The Admiral's voice remained calm, but the underlying threat was unmistakable. Kim Dae-ho looked up from his communication device. Admiral, I'm monitoring transmissions from across the sector. The news of your victory here is spreading fast. Several aggressive species are announcing major policy changes. Such as? The Vortak Empire just declared an end to their expansion campaigns. The Crystal Horde is releasing all their slave populations. 3 different pirate organizations have disbanded entirely. Admiral Choi nodded with satisfaction. Good. Fear can be an excellent motivator for positive change. What about species that don't change? Lee Yuna asked. Then we continue hunting them until they do, or until there are none left to hunt. The casual way he said it made Park Jimin's blood run cold. This wasn't a man making idle threats. This was someone who had already demonstrated the will and ability to destroy entire fleets. Admiral, may I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever worry about becoming the very thing you're fighting against? Becoming the aggressive species that others fear? Admiral Choi considered the question carefully. Commander, there's a difference between being feared and being evil. We don't attack civilian populations. We don't enslave other species. We don't conquer worlds for resources or territory. He turned to face Park Jimin directly. But we will kill anyone who does those things to others, quickly, efficiently, and without hesitation. If that makes us monsters, then we're monsters with a very specific diet. And what happens when there are no more aggressive species left to hunt? Then we go home and tend our own gardens. Humanity has no interest in ruling a peaceful galaxy. We just want to make sure it stays peaceful. The Admiral checked his chronometer. I should return to my ship. The Council diplomatic team will arrive tomorrow, and I suspect they'll have many questions. As Admiral Choi prepared to leave, Park Jimin felt compelled to ask one final question. Admiral, what should we tell the Council about humanity? Admiral paused at the door. Tell them the truth, Commander. Tell them that there are monsters in the galaxy, and tell them that some of those monsters hunt other monsters. After he left, the 4 survivors sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Dr. Hong Sumin spoke. I think I understand now why the pirates and raiders are surrendering. It's not just fear of humanity's weapons. It's the realization that humans hunt differently than other species. What do you mean? Most species fight for territory, resources, or dominance, but humans hunt for justice. And you can't negotiate with justice, you can't bribe it or reason with it. You can only hope you're on the right side of it. Through the viewport, they watched the human fleet begin to move away from the station. 12 ships that had destroyed a force 3 times their size and sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Park Jimin realized that they had witnessed the birth of a new galactic order. An order where predator species would have to answer to an even more dangerous predator. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for shepherds with such sharp teeth. 2 weeks after the human fleet departed, Kepler Research Station felt almost normal again. The Galactic Council had sent a security patrol to watch over them, but Commander Park Jimin knew the real protection came from something else entirely. The word had spread throughout the galaxy. This station was under human protection. The communications array buzzed constantly now with messages from across known space. Every species wanted to know about the mysterious humans who had appeared from nowhere and destroyed an entire Vakari fleet. Kim Dae-ho had become something of a celebrity among communications officers throughout the sector. Everyone wanted to hear his first-hand account of the battle. "Commander," Kim Dae-ho called from his station, "I'm getting another request for an interview. This one's from the Altarian News Network. Tell them the same thing we've told everyone else. We're scientists, not military analysts." But Park Jimin knew that didn't stop the speculation. Every news service in Council space was trying to piece together information about humanity's capabilities. The picture that emerged was terrifying. Dr. Hong Suman entered the command center, carrying a datapad. "I've been reviewing the medical scans the human team took of our injured. Their technology is at least 50 years ahead of anything the Council has." "Just their medical technology?" Park Jimin asked. "Everything. Their tools, their computers, their weapons. It's like they developed completely independently of the rest of the galaxy." Security Chief Lee Yuna looked up from her security console. "That's because they did. I've been researching human history through the galactic databases. They only achieved faster-than-light travel about 60 years ago." 60 years? Kim Dae-ho sounded amazed. "Most species take centuries to develop that kind of military capability after achieving FTL. Humans are different," Lee Yuna continued. "According to the records, they had been fighting wars for thousands of years before they ever left their planet. They already knew how to build weapons and organize armies." Park Jimin thought about Admiral Choi's casual mention of Earth being a death world. "What else do the records say about their planet?" "It's classified as uninhabitable by Council standards. Extreme weather patterns, deadly diseases, predatory animals, natural disasters. The records estimate that 90% of Council species would die within a week of landing there." "And humans evolved there," Dr. Hong Suman said quietly. "No wonder they're so different from us." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent tone from the communications array. Kim Dae-ho quickly answered the incoming call. "Kepler Station, this is Captain Park Namjoon of the Council security vessel Harmony. We have an urgent situation developing." "Park." Jimin took the call. "This is Commander Park. What's the situation, Captain?" "Sir, we've been monitoring a large fleet moving through the sector. 43 ships bearing the markings of the Crimson Syndicate. They appear to be heading toward the Theta Centauri system." "The mining colonies," Lee Yuna said grimly. 40,000 civilians." "Captain, has the Council fleet been notified?" "Sir, our nearest combat vessels are 8 days away. The Syndicate fleet will reach Theta Centauri in 2 days." Park Jimin felt sick. The Crimson Syndicate was almost as bad as the Vakari. They specialized in raiding mining operations and enslaving the workers. 40,000 civilians didn't stand a chance. "Have you contacted the local defense forces?" "The Theta Centauri system has no military presence, sir. Just orbital platforms with minimal weapons." Kim Dae-ho suddenly looked up from his communications console. "Commander, I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Something big is dropping out of FTL near the edge of the system." The main screen shifted to show sensor readings. 8 ships had appeared from hyperspace, moving rapidly toward their position. "Are those Council ships?" Dr. Hong Suman asked. Kim Dae-ho checked his readings twice. "No, sir. The ship signatures match human design." "The humans are back?" Lee Yuna sounded surprised. "Not the same ships. This is a different fleet entirely." Captain Park Namjoon's voice came over the comm system. "Kepler Station, are you seeing this? 8 unidentified vessels just appeared on our sensors." "We see them, Captain. Stand by." The lead human ship opened a communication channel. The voice that came through was crisp and professional. "Kepler Research Station. This is Admiral Lee Donghae of the Terran Defense Fleet 3rd Squadron. We received reports of Crimson Syndicate activity in this sector." Park Jimin activated the response channel. "Admiral Lee, this is Commander Park. The Syndicate fleet is moving toward the Theta Centauri colonies." "Understood. 3rd Squadron is moving to intercept. Estimated time to engagement is 14 hours. "Admiral, the Syndicate has 43 ships, you only have 8. There was a pause before Admiral Lee responded. When he did, Park Jimin could hear amusement in his voice. Commander, I appreciate your concern, but 8 ships is more than sufficient for this operation. The human fleet changed course and accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point. Within minutes, they had disappeared into FTL. Captain Park Namjoon contacted them again. Commander Park, did the humans just say they were going to engage a fleet of 43 ships with only 8 vessels? That's what they said, Captain. Are they insane? Park Jimin thought about the complete destruction of the Vakari fleet he had witnessed 2 weeks ago. No, Captain, I don't think they are. Over the next day, communications traffic throughout the sector increased dramatically. Word had spread that another human fleet was moving to intercept a major syndicate raid. Every species with monitoring stations was watching to see what would happen. Kim Dae-ho monitored the transmissions constantly. Commander, I'm picking up reports from automated trading vessels near Theta Centauri. The human fleet has arrived. Any word on the battle? Not yet, sir, but... Kim Dae-ho paused, checking his instruments. I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures throughout the sector. It looks like news services and military observers from a dozen different species are moving to monitor the situation. 18 hours after the human fleet had departed, Kim Dae-ho received a transmission from the Theta Centauri system. This is Admiral Lee Dong-hae to all vessels in the sector. The Crimson Syndicate fleet has been eliminated. Theta Centauri colonies are secure. Any Syndicate vessels remaining in this region of space have 24 hours to surrender or face destruction. The transmission ended. The command center was silent for several minutes. All 43 ships? Dr. Hong Soo-min asked quietly. Kim Dae-ho was frantically checking news feeds from the battle site. According to the reports I'm getting, yes. The entire Syndicate fleet was destroyed. No human losses. 8 ships destroyed 43, Lee Yuna said in amazement. How is that possible? Deathworld technology, Park Jimin replied. And Deathworld tactics. Over the following days, the news of the Theta Centauri battle spread throughout the galaxy. The reaction was swift and dramatic. Kim Dae-ho compiled reports from across the sector. Commander, I've got updates from 16 different regions. Every major pirate organization has announced they're ceasing operations. The Void Reapers have disbanded completely. The Star Devourers are releasing all their prisoners and withdrawing to their home system. What about the larger aggressive species? The Mordian Empire has recalled all their invasion fleets. The Kareth slavers have freed over 2 million slaves and announced they're switching to legitimate trade. The Zephyrian raiders have requested peace negotiations with all their former enemies. Park Jimin shook his head in amazement. 2 battles had changed the balance of power in their entire region of space. The mere threat of human intervention was causing aggressive species throughout the galaxy to reconsider their behavior. There's more, Kim Dae-ho continued. I'm getting reports that species as far as 20 sectors away are modifying their military policies. Everyone's afraid they might be next on humanity's hunting list. Dr. Hong Soo-min looked up from her research files. I've been analyzing the pattern. It's not random. The humans are specifically targeting species that attack civilians. They're not bothering with conflicts between military forces. They're enforcing their own version of galactic law, Lee Yuna observed. Attack civilians face extinction. Military conflicts between consenting armies seem to be acceptable. It's working, Park Jimin realized. They're creating peace through fear. Species are afraid to attack civilian targets because they know humanity will come for them. The communications array chimed with an incoming message. Kim Dae-ho answered, and then looked up in surprise. Commander, it's for you personally. The caller says he's Ambassador Jin Seok-jin from the Terran Diplomatic Corps. Park Jimin took the call. The human who appeared on screen looked nothing like Admiral Choi or Admiral Lee. He was younger with a friendly face and diplomatic bearing. Commander Park, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to personally thank you for your report to the Galactic Council regarding our operations in your sector. Ambassador, I simply told them what I witnessed. And you told them accurately. And fairly. That's appreciated. I also wanted to inform you that the Terran government is establishing a formal embassy on the Council homeworld. We believe it's time for humanity to take a more active role in galactic affairs. What kind of role? Ambassador Jin smiled. The same role we've been playing informally, keeping the peace. The difference is that now we'll be doing it with official diplomatic backing. And if species refuse to cooperate with Terran diplomatic initiatives? The Ambassador's smile didn't change, but his eyes grew cold. Then they'll deal with our military instead of our diplomats. I find that most species prefer the diplomatic option. After the transmission ended, Park Jimin sat back in his chair and considered what humanity had accomplished in just a few weeks. They had appeared from nowhere, destroyed multiple enemy fleets, and fundamentally changed the nature of galactic politics. And they had done it all while claiming they just wanted to go home and tend their gardens. Park Jimin wondered if the rest of the galaxy truly understood what they were dealing with. Humanity wasn't just another species with advanced technology. They were apex predators who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. And now those predators were loose in a galaxy full of prey species who had never learned to fight back. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of human protection had begun, whether the galaxy wanted it or not. 6 months had passed since the human fleet first arrived at Kepler Station. Commander Park Jimin stood in his newly expanded command center, watching ships from 12 different species work together on a joint research project. It was something that would have been impossible before humanity's intervention in galactic affairs. The station itself had grown significantly. The Galactic Council had provided funding to expand the facility into a major research hub, partly as a reward for their role in first contact with humanity, and partly because everyone wanted to stay close to a station under human protection. "Commander," Communications Officer Kim Dae-ho called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council homeworld. It's Ambassador Trelanan." Park Jimin had met the Alarian diplomat several times over the past months. Ambassador Trelanan had become the Council's primary liaison with the human embassy. "Put him through, Kim." The elderly Alarian appeared on the main screen. His usually calm demeanor showed signs of strain. "Commander Park, I hope this finds you well. I'm calling to inform you that the Council has just concluded a major policy revision based on the changes in our sector." "What kind of policy revision?" "We're officially recognizing what we're calling the Terran Peace Doctrine. Any species that attacks civilian populations will be subject to immediate intervention by human forces." Dr. Hong Sumin, who had been reviewing research data nearby, looked up in surprise. "The Council is officially endorsing human military intervention?" "We don't have much choice, Doctor. In the past 6 months, violent conflicts throughout Council space have decreased by 80%. Piracy is down 95%. Slavery has been virtually eliminated in 47 sectors. Security Chief Lee Yuna joined the conversation. "What about species sovereignty? Doesn't this give humans the right to interfere in any conflict they choose?" Ambassador Trelanan sighed. "Chief Lee, sovereignty becomes meaningless when you're dead. The humans have made it clear they will only intervene in cases involving civilian populations. Military conflicts between consenting governments are still considered internal affairs. And species that refuse to accept this arrangement? Let me put it this way, Chief. In the past month, 3 different aggressive species have tested human resolve. The Karlax Empire attacked a trading station in the Beta sector. A human fleet arrived 6 hours later. There is no longer a Karlax Empire." Park Jimin felt a familiar chill. They were completely destroyed. Every military vessel, every government installation, every weapons factory. The humans left the civilian population alone, but they effectively eliminated the Karlax as a military power. Kim Dae-ho looked up from his monitoring station. "Sir, I've been tracking similar incidents across the galaxy. The humans have conducted what they call police actions against 17 different aggressive species in the past month." 17? Dr. Hong Sumin sounded shocked. "The pattern is always the same. Rapid deployment, overwhelming force, complete destruction of military capabilities, and then immediate withdrawal. They don't occupy territory or demand tribute. They just eliminate the threat and leave." Ambassador Trelanan nodded grimly. "The efficiency is terrifying. Most conflicts are over within hours of human ships arriving. They've turned warfare into a precise surgical procedure. What's the reaction from other species? Fear mostly, but also relief. Civilian populations throughout the galaxy are safer now than they've been in centuries. Aggressive species are either reforming their behavior or being removed from the equation. The transmission was interrupted by an alert tone. Kim Dae-ho quickly checked his instruments. "Commander, we have incoming ships. Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace." Park Jimin felt a moment of concern, but Kim Dae-ho quickly identified the vessels. "It's okay, sir. 3 human ships. Light cruiser class. They're requesting permission to dock." Permission granted. "Ambassador Trelanan, it looks like we're about to have visitors." "Actually, Commander, that's part of why I called. The humans are establishing permanent monitoring stations throughout Council space. Your sector is getting one of the first installations." After ending the call with the ambassador, Park Jimin made his way to the docking bay to meet their human visitors. The lead ship was smaller than the warships he had seen before, but it still moved with the same predatory grace that marked all human vessels. The airlock opened, and a woman in human naval uniform stepped through. She was tall and carried herself with military bearing, but her expression was friendly and professional. "Commander Park, I'm Captain Kim Jisoo, Terran Monitoring Service. We're here to establish a permanent observation post in your sector." "Welcome to Kepler Station, Captain. How can we assist you?" "We'll need to install some monitoring equipment and establish a communication relay. With your permission, of course. We want to make sure we can respond quickly to any future incidents." Park Jimin led Captain Kim through the station, showing her the facilities they could offer. As they walked, he couldn't help but ask the question that had been bothering him for months. "Captain, can I ask you something about human policy?" "Of course, Commander. Your people have essentially appointed themselves as galactic peacekeepers, but what happens in the long term? What happens when there are no more aggressive species left to hunt?" Captain Kim stopped walking and considered the question carefully. "Commander, do you know what Earth was like before we achieved space travel? I know it was a dangerous world. It was more than dangerous, it was hell. Constant warfare between different human nations, nuclear weapons, environmental disasters, billions of people living in poverty or under oppressive governments." She resumed walking, her voice taking on a thoughtful tone. "We almost destroyed ourselves a dozen times. But we learned something important from all that conflict. Peace isn't the absence of the capacity for violence. It's the presence of justice backed by overwhelming force. And you believe you can provide that justice for the entire galaxy?" "We believe we have to try, because the alternative is watching. Species like the Vakari and the Crimson Syndicate continue to murder civilians while everyone else stands by and does nothing." They reached the observation deck where Dr. Hong Suman and Lee Yuna were waiting. Captain Kim greeted them warmly and then looked out at the peaceful scene of mixed species research vessels working together. "This is what we're fighting for," she said simply. "A galaxy where different species can cooperate without fear." Dr. Hong Suman stepped forward. "Captain, I've been studying the psychological effects of human intervention on various species. Most show significant reductions in aggressive behavior, but some of our xenopsychologists are concerned about long-term dependency." "What kind of dependency?" "Species becoming so reliant on human protection that they lose the ability to defend themselves. What happens if humanity ever withdraws from galactic affairs?" Captain Kim smiled, but it wasn't the predatory smile Park Jimin had seen from other human officers. This was genuinely warm. "Doctor, that's actually our long-term goal. We want to work ourselves out of a job. We're establishing training programs to help other species develop their own defensive capabilities, not for conquest but for protection." Lee Yuna looked surprised. "You're teaching other species how to fight?" "We're teaching them how to defend themselves and their civilian populations. There's a difference. We want a galaxy full of species, capable of protecting themselves from future predators." Kim Dae-ho approached the group, carrying his portable communication device. "Captain, I've been monitoring transmissions from across the sector. There's something you should know." "What is it?" "Several formerly aggressive species have been sending messages directly to human diplomatic stations. They're not just surrendering, or withdrawing. They're asking for help reforming their societies. Captain Kim raised an eyebrow. What kind of help? The Mordian Empire has requested assistance transitioning from a military dictatorship to a civilian government. The Zephyrian raiders want help establishing legitimate trade relationships. Even some of the former Kareth slavers are asking for guidance on creating ethical economic systems. Park Jimin stared at Kim Daeho in amazement.